Hua Mulan, the Maiden Warrior. The story of Mulan, the Maiden Warrior, has to be the most widely recognizable legend from China. The story comes from an old folk song, known as the Ballad of Mulan, or Mulan Shi in Mandarin Chinese. Historians believe it was written during the Northern Wei dynasty, a turbulent time in Chinese history, which lasted from the 4th to the 6th centuries, 386 to 535. The founders of this dynasty were the Tuoba, a nomadic tribe of people with Turkic ancestry, who fought to unite the northern self-ruling states under one emperor they called the Khan. As time went by, the Ballad of Mulan was sung so much that in the 12th century a written copy was added to the Yuefu Shirji, a compiled anthology of folk poems. In this way, it was documented for posterity, whether Mulan the Maiden Warrior was real or not. She is an unforgettable figure whose story has been retold through the ages in books and films, from China to Hollywood. This is a retelling, adapted from several sources. The night was about to turn into dawn. Hua Mulan galloped through the grasslands on the bare back of her chestnut mare, her black hair streaming behind her in the early morning breeze. "No!" Mulan shouted into the wind. "The world is my oyster. I will not marry the man who was chosen for me." Mulan slowed her horse to catch her breath, her heart pounding against her rib cage so hard that her chest hurt. Sweat beaded on her brow and upper lip, and she burst into tears. Her father, Hua Hu, was a commander of the Great Khan's army. He had sent word home from Black Mountain, 3 days' journey away, that she would soon be married to the prominent and eligible Wang Qingyun, the son of Wang Xishuan. In marrying his daughter off to an elite Chinese family, Hua Hu was following in the tradition of his Turkic ancestors, the ancient nomadic Tuoba people who'd lived on the northern steppes between Mongolia and China for more than 400 years. "Daughter, you must behave more like a lady," Mulan's mother had pleaded when she'd learned the news. "You must now put away your coarse nomadic ways. Forget that you know martial arts, archery, and horse riding. You will have no need for such abilities at the Wang household. There you'll be expected to use the wifely and feminine skills of weaving, embroidery and cooking, and later child-rearing. A marriage is a joining of two families, daughter, and you will represent your father's ancestors in the Wang household." Mulan shuddered at these expectations, for this was not how she had envisioned her life to be. She knew she would be expected to get married one day, according to her father's heritage and customs, but she did not want to be married into a family such as the Wangs. They were of pure Han Chinese ancestry, unlike her, and their ways would be different to hers. Mulan's mother was Han Chinese, but she was no elite, and Hua Hu was no Tuoba royalty. 17-year-old Mulan and her siblings, 9-year-old sister Manon and 5-year-old brother Yaoer, had been raised in the nomadic way. Mulan was used to roaming freely on the steppe land. Surrounding the family's Chonglu, a large tent made from felt. She was an excellent archer, and she helped her father hunt animals for meat and fur. Meanwhile, her future husband was exempted from the army because he was a scholar, which would be attractive prospects in a husband for every other girl in China, but not for Mulan. She did not wish to be a scholar's wife, prevented from learning herself and expected to serve her husband, in accordance with Chinese customs. She wanted to be like her mother, who was regarded by her husband as his equal. Her parents' marriage was unique, formed out of choice, love, and respect. Being married to a scholarly Chinese family would put a stop to all the freedom she knew, and Mulan's heart ached with this knowledge. She was proud of her dual heritage, but she wanted to continue living the way she'd been brought up by her father, on the steppe with her horse, Mulan. "You're a good girl, Mulan," Mulan whispered as she stroked the mare's chestnut mane. "What would I do without you?" She leaned against Mulan's neck and hugged her, nuzzling into her mane. Just then, not far ahead in the grasslands, 2 chestnut hares bounded by. "Ah! They will make a good stew for our dinner," Mulan said, pulling out her bow and an arrow from the quiver slung across her chest. She aimed the arrow at the hares, who had stopped to nibble at some grass. When a rustle caused the hares to scamper off, Mulan lowered her bow and gave chase. Then, as the hares stopped bounding, coming to a rest side by side, Mulan aimed once more and her swift arrow found both creatures in one stroke. Climbing down from Mutin, she picked up the animals and slung them over the mare's back. Mother will be pleased that we have meat, and father will be proud that I aimed well, killing 2 hares with a single arrow, Mulan said. Thank you, heavens, for this generous find. We will have new skins for the coming winter, and a lovely meal tonight. For a moment, Mulan forgot that she would soon be married. She quickly rode home on Mutin as the sun rose in the sky. As Mulan entered her family's felt tent, she held both hares up. Mother, look what I've caught. I wasn't planning on dash, she froze mid-sentence. Her mother was kneeling at the altar of Odiana, the goddess of fire, with her face cupped in her hands, sobbing and praying for mercy. Mother, what has happened? Mulan asked, dropping the hares to run to her mother's side. Your father is just back from Black Mountain. He said that the Khan is drafting again for a new army, and he needs to go to battle once more, Mulan's mother said, looking up at her daughter. I'm afraid that he won't survive this one, given his age and health. Mulan felt a stab of anguish in her heart. It was true, her father was surely not young and fit enough to endure another battle, and yet he had a duty to the Khan and could not refuse. The only way he could be spared was if there was a boy of fighting age in their family who could take his place. Mulan knew what she had to do. I will go in father's place, Mulan said, wiping tears from her mother's face. Yaour is too young and I have no elder brother. The Khan's army will have to take me. But, daughter, no girl has ever been conscripted before. This isn't possible, Mulan's mother said in despair. I look enough like a boy, mother, Mulan said, indicating her toned body and lean frame. I will cut my hair short, and nobody will be able to tell that I'm a girl once I put on father's armor. I'm better than any man on horseback, and my archery skills are the best in the steppe. Mutin is not a horse for battle, Mulan's mother said, cupping her daughter's face in her hands. Looking intently into her eyes, she continued, You may be the best archer on this side of the steppe, but the enemies have far more experience. I can't let you do this, daughter. Mother, we have no choice. Father cannot go to battle. Don't worry. I will get a steed at the market east of here, and a saddle and blanket at the one west of us. I will need a bridle and a long whip too. What I can't find at the east and west markets, I will get at the south and north ones. Please keep Mutin safe for me. Tell her I'll be back to ride her again, Mulan said, trying to stop her voice from breaking. The next morning, as her sister and brother were still asleep, and their father's soft snores filled their tent, Mulan crept out of their cheonglu, wearing her father's armor, with a roll of bedding and a sack of gold coins. Her mother bundled some air-dried meat into a felt sack and filled a sheep's stomach pouch with hot fermented milk tea, then slipped the food and drink into Mulan's satchel. Farewell, daughter, Mulan's mother whispered. May your journey be smooth and blessed. Mulan headed eastward, where she bought a steed from the horse merchant in the market there. Then she rode the steed to purchase a saddle, a blanket, and the rest of the things she needed. By the time she was done, the sun was nearly setting. Pleased that she was fully equipped to join the Khan's army, Mulan rolled out her bedding and made a fire so she could camp under the stars for the night. But as she lay down to sleep, she realized that she had forgotten about her hair. Sitting back up, she took her hunting knife out from her satchel, and with the moon and bonfire as her light, she cut off her tresses until her hair was so short it stuck out in tufts from her head. She watched as the fire crackled, burning the bunches of hair she fed to it. Now I look like any young man joining the great Khan's army, Mulan said, satisfied, as she swept her hands over her head. She awoke at the crack of dawn, then put on her father's armor and rode towards the Yellow River. Determined to ride without wavering or distraction, she reached the river before sunset, camped there for the evening, and then made her way onwards to Black Mountain at the break of dawn the next day. When she finally arrived, she saw a line of men queuing for conscription. She joined the line and found that they were being tested for their archery skills. Their target was a piece of hide stretched tightly over a wooden frame, painted with a small red circle in the center. When it came to Mulan's turn, she whipped an arrow from her quiver, aimed it confidently at the target, and hit the bullseye. Mulan was the only soldier to do so, and she was recruited into the army without hesitation. The Khan's commanders cheered and praised her for her masculine strengths and accuracy. "Great shot, soldier. That target was a long distance away. Your eyesight is sharp," the captain of the Khan's archery battalion said. "Your name and status?" "I am Hua Mulan, the firstborn child of Hua Hu of the Tuoba clan. My father is aged and war-weary, and he has sent me in his place to fight for the great Khan," Mulan said, making her voice a little low and gruff. "You are a good son, Hua Mulan, and the god of war will grant your father permission to abstain from war. Your face is yet to grow hair, and we need young and able men like you to fight for the Khan's army. As the great Khan's highest commanding officer here, one grant you permission to take your father's place at war," the captain said. "Here is a metal helmet to show that you are part of the great Khan's army." Mulan was sent into battle immediately, and she fought her first combat with fervor and focus. 1 year turned into 2, and 2 into 3, and soon time slipped away. As the years in battle passed, Mulan's combat skills developed. She learned to brandish the sword and to throw the vaulting pole, and excelled in using both. She even found a way to make her chain armor stronger to protect herself. As soldier after soldier fell in combat, Mulan was able to stay alive. Before long, she rose in rank from a common soldier to a commanding officer. Mulan fought alongside men in battle for the great Khan's army for 12 summers and winters. During that time, she crossed 10,000 miles of mountain passes and terrain, riding authoritatively on her steed. She protected her horse and herself from injury, until it was time for her horse to retire from battle due to old age. Her prowess as an archer did not go unnoticed either, as her swift arrows flew past the heads of many soldiers to hit every target she aimed at. Mulan was rewarded again and again by the great Khan himself, and when the war was over, he offered to promote her as a high-ranking official to lead his army. "What is your heart's desire?" the great Khan asked. "Your wish is my command." "I've no need to be a high-ranking commander, my Khan," Mulan replied. "All I ask for is a swift steed to ride back home to my family. After 12 years in combat, I've missed them and they me. I would like to ask permission to retire from battle as my parents are aging and I will need to take care of them." The Khan nodded. "Indeed, as the firstborn son, your filial duty is to your parents. I will send you home with a troop of guards, for a brave and mighty warrior like you requires a hero's send-off. I wish you well, Hua Mulan." Mulan was given the fastest horse in the army and, together with her men, she rode home to the open arms of her family. When Mulan neared the family's Chonglu, it was Yaoer who saw his sister first. Now a strapping lad of 17, he was the same age as Mulan had been when she'd left to join the great Khan's army. "Mulan is home! Mulan is home!" Yaoer called out. "Brave daughter, you are home at last," Hua Hu called out, stepping out of the Chonglu. Mulan saw how her father had aged. Bowing to him respectfully, she said, "Yes, father, your daughter has returned, having served in the great Khan's army for 12 years. Your mother and I are so proud of you, daughter. Let us celebrate and thank Odiana for bringing you home safely," Hua Hu said, gesturing for Mulan to come into the tent. The troop of male soldiers behind Mulan looked at each other in surprise. daughter? One of them asked. We traveled and fought together for 12 years, and yet we didn't know that Mulan was a woman. How could that be? Another continued, baffled. Brothers in arms, when two hares run together side by side, can you tell which one is the male and which the female? Mulan asked as she pulled off her boots, and with that, she ran barefoot through the grassland of her home, like she used to do when she was a young girl living in the steppes. Approaching Mutant's paddock, she called out, 1 a.m. home at last.